Good morning, folks. Calling to order the November MTA board meeting. Let's hear the public safety announcement and then from our public speakers.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Andy, can we hear from public speakers, please?
Sure. Good morning. The public comment for today's joint committee meeting is limited to 30 minutes. I would like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness, all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Should there be additional speakers after time for public comment has elapsed, an overflow room has been set up and will be available where comments will be recorded and made available to the board. This morning we have 27 public speakers registered. As a reminder, we ask all speakers to adhere to MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. Profanity and personal attacks of any kind are not allowed. Comments are to be directed to the committee through the chair or to the committee as a whole. Please be aware that there will be a beep to remind you when you have 30 seconds remaining to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker will be Deborah Greif, followed by Brian Frischt.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Deborah Greif, and I'm here for a very important reason. When I heard the congestion pricing was put back on the table, I was very, very happy. No, I didn't jump because it would hurt. But I'm happy for more reasons than most people realize, and a lot of the elected officials should hear this. It's not just only, of course I want all accessible train station. I want more updated buses. I definitely want more updated accessorized vans. But I also want the roadways that are on the MTA bridges and tunnels to be kept in great repair. Because I would like to challenge every elected official who's against it. They can come to my house and meet me. I'll let them be the PCA instead of Christopher. And I want them to take a ride with me on the bridges, on the tunnel. And I want them to feel the bumps that the persons with disabilities, have to put up with. Or when we're trying to get to our doctor, and the GPS doesn't work, so the driver goes somewhere else instead of following, and we're sitting in traffic, and I have to be at the doctor's appointment, say, I gave 3 hours, and it's now maybe an hour before, and we still haven't moved. I want them to see how this feels. And they're worried, yes, it costs money, but how do you think we, as persons with disabilities, who are constantly blamed, why aren't you working? Well, if we can't have a truly accessible system, and the roads to be in great shape, how do you expect people with disabilities to go to work? So I'm 100,000% in favor of congestion pricing, and yes, any of them can take me up on my offer. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brian Frischt, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. I'm Brian Fritsch, Associate Director for the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. Last Thursday, Governor Hochul unpaused congestion pricing, regaining her mantle as a champion for transit riders. We thank her for standing in riders' corners. We only need to look across the Hudson to see what happens when elected officials don't prioritize transit. a 15% fare increase for NJ Transit riders earlier this year, and SEPTA facing a 20% increase and massive service cuts now. We are grateful to our leaders for avoiding that fate. Yet the November financial plan makes it clear serious challenges remain that could impact the service for riders for the foreseeable future, including how the reduced congestion pricing rate will actually affect the financial plan and impact service, and how bond markets will react to a lower fee structure, how NYCT will grapple with its shortfall in needed maintenance workers, the impact of lagging revenue numbers despite improved overall ridership and some improvements on fare evasion, particularly after student OmniCards went into operation this fall, how the projected $14 billion in federal support for the next capital plan comes together under a new administration in D.C. One clear solution must be to continue to fight for equitable access to affordable transit by passing a rider-first fare agenda. Let me know if you want to see a copy, including raising fares to 200% of the federal poverty limit and expanding it to the LIR and Metro North in the city. We are rallying tomorrow with Speaker Adams and other advocates. Thank you for your ongoing leadership on this, Board Member Jones, to make our case to the city. Improving city ticket by offering weekly and monthly passes with discounted transfers and an intercity combo ticket. Expanding the AM peak fare discounts to seniors and people with disabilities across the railroads. These initiatives will cut fare evasion while increasing ridership and making the city more equitable and affordable. This is exactly what the governor has been clamoring for, and we hope it earns everyone's support. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Christopher Greif.
Good morning, Janet. Good morning, Paige. And good morning to the rest of the MTA board. It is more than clear that New York makes always a trend nationwide. This is one more case that New York should make history with congestion pricing. Since day one, I've been one of those advocates that fought and is still fighting for the passing of congestion pricing. From the 5 boroughs to Long Island to the Hudson Valley. We need congestion pricing now because those across the Hudson raised their fares 50% in July. Guess what, folks? This upcoming July of 2025, they're going to raise their fares another 3%. And then the year after, another 3%. SEPTA is facing their own fiscal cliff. They're going to raise their own Broad Street line and Franklin Frankfurt line another 20%. It is more than clear that I don't want to hear no more sirens of ambulances and drivers honking their horns once I walk along downtown Brooklyn and here in Manhattan. It is loud and clear that we want more elevators, ramps, LED lines. We want to replace once and for all the R62s that are as old as myself, the R46s, and more signals that could provide faster service with more reliable equipment, just as to replace the M3s that are much older than myself. So let's make history once again together.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by David Krumpfberg.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christopher D. Greif. As my fellow advocates are here today saying the same thing, I'm going to say some of the same. One thing we definitely need. We need the elected officials to understand that accessibility is the key. We need to make sure that accessorites don't get stuck in traffic. Bridges and tunnels, even NYPD and MTA police, they need to get through, and they're stuck in traffic in case of an emergency. Years already, my fellow advocates have been asking to stop getting stuck in traffic to where they have to go. Baseball games, parks, other places we want to go. And, you know, it was getting harder and harder. And they're also forgetting that the bridges need to be updated. Tunnels need to be updated. Buses and trains, railroads, they all have to be updated, be full accessible. We need to move forward not backwards. And I hope that a lot of the press can understand that accessibility needs to be put in their news media, because there are only two that have mentioned it. We need to make sure that we move forward to the new century. We're in the 21st century. We need more accessibility for a reason. So a lot of people can come in to New York and have access to where they want to go. We need to make sure the curb cuts, the lights, the cameras, because NYPD and MTA police need to make sure we're staying safe on the train, at the station. Accessibility is there for a reason, for disabilities, veterans, and seniors. And I'm encouraging you, please, let's work together and let's get this congestion price done once and for all. And since the holiday train is around the corner also, I hope to see MTA police and NYPD will be joining us on the train, because the kids love you. They love them because they say, look, they're superheroes on the train. So let's please keep the love and peace, because that holiday train is like the lifeline of keeping the holiday love and peace. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is David Kumpfberg, followed by John Padula.
I'm David Kupferberg, Vice President of Bus Advocacy, Passengers United. According to the MTA website, the Brooklyn Bus Network redesign proposed final plan won't be released until the latter half of 2025. This means that the project won't be completed until at least 2026. However, the Queens Bus Network redesign is already near completion. Its proposed final plan and soon to be released addendum are expected to be approved by the MTA board within a few months. The service changes connected to the Queens Bus Network redesign are projected to be implemented later in 2025. Currently, the B57 operates between Red Hook and Brooklyn and Maspeth and Queens, and the Q18 operates between Astoria and Maspeth. As per the Queens Bus Network redesign, the MTA has proposed to extend the B57 to Jackson Heights and, at the same time, streamline the Q18 in Maspeth. If these changes are done first, the B57 would become operationally unmanageable. The B57 extension and the Q18 streamline should be delayed until the Brooklyn Bus Network redesign is implemented. Beginning mid-January 2025, for 17 weeks, there will be no subway service all times between the Howard Beach JFK Airport Station and the Rockaways for resiliency work. I think that the replacement bus service is being done on the cheap. Whether the MTA likes this or not, there will be an influx of riders utilizing other services. What about the people who insist on having a one-seat ride between the Rockaways and Manhattan, and the people of Broad Channel? In fact, the QM16, QM17, and the Long Island Railroad Far Rockaway branch will be the only services traveling directly between the Rockaways and Manhattan during the disruption. These injustices have to be corrected. The people of the Rockaways and Broad Channel deserve viable mass transit options during resiliency work, not be treated like second-class citizens. The MTA must deliver. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is John Padula, followed by Murray Bowden.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Padula. I'm a supervisor from Educational Vision Services from New York City Public Schools. I'm also a member of the Advisory Committee for Transit Accessibility. Mr. Krichkolo, I don't think I've ever met you personally. Would love to have a chance to have a conversation. Perhaps you could join us at one of our ACTA meetings. We meet monthly. I am glad that funding has or is arriving. I just want to reiterate that accessible transit is not only buses, not only subways, but it also includes paratransit, because unfortunately there's always going to be a demographic that are going to have to rely on paratransit as a means of travel. And for as long as 30 minutes is deemed on time, I can't take traditional paratransit serious in terms of supporting gainful employment in our city. In 2017, I've been an accessible ride user since 2003. In 2017, the on-demand program began. And I know at this point, it's a trope, we all say it, but life-changing. It was a game changer. And my day-to-day, not just personally, but professionally, even now, with the limited access in Phase 2 and Phase 3, it's night and day. And that has to be expanded. And we have to figure out how to move that forward in a responsible, equitable way. But again, for as long as 30 minutes is deemed on time, I don't know where the equity is in that. My name is John Padula. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Marie Bowden, followed by Monica Barty.
Good morning. When you talk about change, this meeting is change. It shows leadership from the top. I've been coming to these meetings for 30 years. It's completely different. You saved everybody coming at a different time. You combined it all at once. You conserved resources. There are a lot of problems to solve. You started it from the top and you showed how change can be. I've been coming to these meetings for 30 years. This is the best change I've ever seen. And what you need to recognize, change comes from the top, and you've made change. Yes, there are many problems to solve. Everybody has an issue, but you got to do it one at a time. The fact that you all have come together in one meeting instead of repeating the same thing 10 times is a demonstration of how we have to change. Being here in person is the key. I get to see all of you. You get to see me. Being in person in business works. Video doesn't work. I can see each of you smiling at me or not smiling at me, or angry at me. Jano, you're the leader that this world needs. Thank you for showing change from the top. Everybody else is now required to follow your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Monica Barty, followed by Ron Mitchell. Monica Barty. Our next speaker will be Ron Mitchell, followed by Mike Howard.
Good morning. My name is Ron Mitchell. I am hoping that you can all hear me. I'm in safe driving mode, and this will apparently be one of the last times that I'll be able to drive into the Central Business District, where I previously lived for many years and where my ailing father still currently lives. I'm actually his caretaker. And so, with the advent of congestion pricing, I'll be forced to pay to drive downtown, and then of course also obviously to park. I think it's really kind of insane that the same agency that, not very many years ago, perhaps it's out of memory for so many of us because our attention spans are so short, but this is the same agency that had to admit they had two sets of books, cooked the books and had hidden the books. And there was really very little recourse. There's consistently been a cutting of service across the board. And as far as safety goes, back in November of 2021, MTA hailed there's cameras in all stations. I go to Dyckman Street on the one train, to 207th Street on the one train, and the cameras are still covered in plastic as they've been for now 8 months since when they were installed. There was just a robbery at Dyckman Street on the A train station over the weekend where there are no cameras and there's no access to the uptown platform. You have to crawl through this often flooded, even though it hasn't rained in weeks, underpass. I just really urge the MTA to really consider, and of course, Governor Hocus Pocus to reconsider this congestion pricing plan because it is really, it is really going to do a great disservice. If you thought it was bad in June, what is it going to do to us now that the holidays are here? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Mike Howard, followed by Michael Ring.
Greetings, everyone. Is this microphone on? Okay. Greetings, everyone. Thank God I just came on time. My name is Mike Howard. I'm in Queens representative. Live in Southeast Queens, which is Far Rockaway. Number one, I want to say this quickly to expand accessoride. And number two, I just want to say that I mean, I know it's been a while I haven't been here, but I just want to say this about the Rockaway 4-month shutdown. I just want to say it may affect me a little, but not a lot. But wherever I'm at least I take different ways, you know. So I like to see, when it comes to this construction plan up to 2026, I like to see those two bridges elevated instead of opening. You know what I mean? And it would be much better if y'all start cleaning the first set of R211s on the outside. It's still dirty. It got to be clean. You know what I mean? And I also said this the last few times. It would be better for both of them tech trains to add Fulton Street service as a signage, you know? Not just only 8th Avenue as a signage, Fulton Street as a signage. You know what I mean? So it's good seeing y'all. It's been a while.
Thank you for your remarks.
Have a blessed day.
Our next speaker is Michael Ring, followed by Evan Yamke. Michael Ring. Our next speaker is Evan Yamke, followed by Iris Kelly.
Good morning. My name is Evan Yamke, and I am the Advocacy Director for Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled. We work with stakeholders with disabilities and others who use and or find barriers to using our public transit system because of its ongoing lack of accessible options. One bright spot for accessibility in New York's public transit system has been the Accessoride On-Demand pilot program, which allows Accessoride users a life-changing flexibility. People with disabilities who were prevented from having jobs of their choice, pursuing social or medical obligations at the time of their choice, and participating fully in communities of their choice can, through the Accessoride On-Demand program, flexibly arrange accessible transit for themselves without the scheduling restrictions present in traditional Accessoride. We know that the MTA knows that on-demand works. It works for users, and it works for the system of public transit that grows and becomes more efficient with flexible options. We also know that the on-demand program has improved over time, and we hope that it keeps improving. Today, we are asking you to expand the on-demand pilot program for Accessoride so that more transit users can benefit from it, so that more New Yorkers can take jobs that require flexibility in travel, so that more New Yorkers can live their lives fully without depending on in-advance scheduling of traditional Accessoride. We want on-demand to be available to everyone who wants it, but as a first step, the MTA must significantly increase the number of people who have on-demand in the budget for 2025. We want the MTA to increase on-demand users by at least 5,000 and hopefully significantly more. We are also asking the MTA to eliminate the restrictions on the number of rides and eliminate the restrictions on how much of the ride the MTA will cover. We believe an investment in on-demand will be a huge win for the MTA, worth the cost, and open up new possibilities of economic and social benefit for this city and its public transit users. Please commit to expanding on-demand today. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Iris Kelly, followed by Miriam Fisher.
I'm talking about the Long Island Railroad entrance program. Railroad has a problem where the signage, they put new signs up. Originally had ones, just normal sight I can see, but no, they put new ones in way sky high, small print, you can't even read that. It's ridiculous. They've shown all this metal at the bottom. It's no good to us. Bring the signage down so people be able to see it. And then another night, a 917 train, getting 10:04, But Brooklyn people have to wait a half an hour to get their connecting train. They shouldn't have to wait a half an hour for it. Originally, when they had changed the sign, it would be either we're connecting one time, then it was like 15 minutes apart. I can stand 15 minutes of time waiting time, fine. But no, this last scheduling said me move an additional 15 minutes apart. It's a half an hour wait time, which is a disgrace. This train sitting there for what would have been originally 10:20. It's sitting there. It's going out the yard. They shouldn't be doing it. It should be people taking it into Brooklyn, not sitting there making us wait for extra time. And then for the other things are the let's see, Long Island Railroad have where what the other thought was. I didn't think what the other thought was. Anyway, but it could be much better. And then for the accessible right, I agree about the on demand, but they should make it more available for everybody, not just select people. Because I'm missing out a lot of things in my family. They program things like last minute job. Okay, like to be able to enjoy time with them. I can't even enjoy that. I have to book 2 days before, which is not nice. So try to think about that one for once.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Miriam Fisher, followed by Joe Rappaport.
Good morning. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Please proceed.
Thank you. I reaffirm what disability advocate groups this morning rallied for in front of the MTA building: reliable elevators, elevator maintenance, lawsuit settled. I applaud Governor Hochul's restoration of congestion pricing with its impact on improving air, the environment, safety, reducing traffic. Most significantly, congestion pricing makes available for money for accessibility in elevators on the 23 elevators already approved and the next elevators in the 2029 capital plan. But we have less money available due to reduced tolls. I quote from the 2022 agreement: should unexpected needs arise, the MTA commits to devoting no less than 8% of its total capital plan to station accessibility. I'm adding that no less can mean more than 8%. We need elevators now for people with disabilities, seniors, parents with strollers, riders with luggage, elevators for everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Joe Rappaport, followed by Kathleen Collin.
Good morning. I'm Joe Rappaport of the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled. It's Thanksgiving soon. It's been a bit of a turkey of a year, but here are a few things we're thankful for, plus a few turkeys. We're thankful that Access-A-Ride on demand continues and, in fact, is better than it was last year. As you've heard, it offers a lot more flexibility for your Access-A-Ride riders. It is also the 7th anniversary of the beginning of this pilot. So now in your 2025 budget, it's time to make on-demand available to more Access-A-Ride users and eventually all of them. An expansion in your, $18-19 billion budget would be decimal dust. We're thankful that the MTA opened several elevators this year, and we're thankful that it looks like transit funding may move forward, and you can gobble up that money to catch up on the 23 projects you delayed in June. And I've got to give you another serving of this message. If congestion pricing doesn't move forward for some reason, you must find other funding to make the system accessible and, of course, for the next capital program. We're thankful that Judge Daniels ruled against the MTA's attempt to get him to dismiss our subway elevator maintenance case earlier this year. And at the same time, we're not thankful that the MTA continues to drag out this case. Doesn't seem ready to sit down and settle it with us. Instead, you continue to pay high-priced private attorneys. It's time to settle this 7.5-year-old case, including setting some real standards for elevator maintenance. We're thankful for the ability to testify, though not for this truncated session, and I hope you're thankful for the chance to hear from us. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Kathleen Collins.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Carrying on with that theme, I'm Kathleen Collins. I'm with a board member of Disabled in Action. And carrying on with Joe Rappaport's theme here of Thanksgiving, I too want to give thanks to the MTA And I want to give thanks to the MTA because I've been a user of the on-demand program for almost a year. And I have to admit, it has been life-changing. Now, I have the same flexibility that every one of you have. That is, that I can, at the spur of the moment, go anywhere, anytime. Now, I know you take this for granted every day, but I do not. This is truly life-changing for me. Never in my life have I had this with Accessoride. When I was working, I never could use Accessoride. I had to use a car company, a car service, and I had to pay for that. And I spent approximately $500,000 over my 30-year career at the Port Authority for transportation because I had no flexibility with Accessoride when it actually came into being. I started working even before Accessoride existed in the 1980s. So this is significant, and we definitely need this on-demand program. It assisted me recently also when I had an emergency in my family that I could go to the hospital and see someone very close to me, my boyfriend's father. So I really appreciate that, and we do need this. Now let me go into the 4 points that we need to meet. I agree with Joe Rappaport that we need to expand Accessoride for more people. It needs to be available to everyone. Also, we need to increase the cost that is covered by Accessoride so people can go further in the city, and we need it to be more rides. So thank you. And thank you for listening, and I hope you will continue to put this in the budget. It's a drop in the bucket. So thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Chair, that concludes the allotted time for public comments for this joint committee meeting. The remaining public speakers are directed to the overflow room, which will be both in person and on Zoom, and will be set up shortly. It will be out the door to the left.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you to all the public speakers who we'll have another public speaking session in not too long at the outset of our full board meeting. But we're operating under a slightly adjusted agenda today. And what I've done, or we've done, is to convene a committee of the whole, a joint meeting of all the committees to hear from the agency presidents and to consolidate the various items that normally would be handled separately and repetitively in the various committee meetings. So let's begin with the Bridges and Tunnels President, Kathy Sheridan. Kathy.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. In line with today's consolidated committee meetings, I will briefly cover operational highlights for Bridges and Tunnels. Year to date, total support to mass transit is on target. Overall, the budget is performing well, and we should bring in a record surplus this year due to a combination of increased revenue and lower expenses. Toll revenue year to date is up 5.5% compared to the same period last year. Overall revenue recovery from all forms of collection is 63% through October. On September 1st, new state legislation went into effect, allowing B&T to enter and enforce civil judgments for unpaid toll violations without court proceedings. As of mid-November, more than 70,000 judgment warning notices have been mailed to persistent toll violators, resulting in more than $1.2 million collected in less than 3 months. Toll revenue recovered from customers with DMV suspended vehicle registrations is almost 100% since the start of this B&T referral program in 2016. And in terms of customer behavior, unbillable transactions are projected to be down $3.3 million, or 0.01% as a percentage of overall transactions for 2024. Moving on to roadside enforcement. License plate reader-generated vehicle interdictions are up 104% year-to-date versus 2023. So far this year, we have conducted 54 joint operations. These ops have resulted in 658 arrests, over $25.2 million owed, nearly 30,000 summons issued, and more than 3,000 vehicles towed. Regarding safety, I'm pleased to report that even with increased traffic, collisions are down over 16% for the same period versus 2023. And shifting to a historic note regarding the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, this Thursday, November 21st, marks the 60th anniversary of the bridge's opening. When it opened in 1964, the bridge was the world's longest suspension span, and today remains the longest suspension span in North America. The bridge was the bridge was designed by renowned engineer Othmar Ammann, who designed the Bronx Whitestone, Throgs Neck, and Triborough bridges. His designs were characterized by strength and utility, but also grace and elegance. He said, "It is a crime to build an ugly bridge." We at Bridges and Tunnels may be biased, but we completely agree that the VN is a monumental beauty. The importance of the bridge as a critical link in the regional transportation network cannot be overstated. The VN has a total of 13 traffic lanes, 6 on the upper level, with a reversible 7th HOV bus lane, and 6 lanes on the lower level. More than 1,600 MTA buses cross the VN every weekday, bringing thousands of commuters from Staten Island through Brooklyn into Manhattan. As with our other 8 crossings, we are committed to keeping the VN in a state of good repair for many decades to come through our capital program and regular maintenance. Governor Hochul's announcement to proceed with congestion pricing will enable us to advance critical capital projects such as cable dehumidification, and we are appreciative and enthusiastic regarding this welcome news, which you'll hear more about throughout the day. Any spotlight on the Verrazano Bridge would not be complete without a nod to our facility team. These employees know the bridge and its approaches like the back of their hands, and it's reassuring to me, as it should be to our customers, that they're on the job making sure vehicles cross our roadways safely and efficiently. This concludes B&T's report.
Thank you. Folks, any questions or comments for Kathy? We're going to move on to New York City Transit. Demetrius?
Good morning. It's only been 3 weeks since we last convened that committee, but we've been hard at work at New York City Transit pushing forward on our mission for safety and service. So it's always great to celebrate ridership milestones, and recently we've reached milestone after milestone across the system. This is especially true on the subway. Since September, we've seen strong ridership growth. Notably, this growth is coming across the board. We've exceeded 4 million riders on a Friday for the first time since the pandemic on both October 18th and October 25th. We've broken the single-day record for post-COVID ridership several times, most recently on October 30th with over 4.4 million paid rides. And on Marathon Sunday, we hit a new high for Sunday ridership at 2.6 million rides. October was the busiest month for New York City Transit since the pandemic, with nearly 114 million subway rides and over 40 million bus rides, 10 million more subway rides, 3 million more bus rides than October of 2023. When you put it all together, it should be no surprise that when our 1 billionth subway customer tapped into the system at Atlantic Avenue on November 4th, it was 2 weeks earlier than the same milestone last year and 2 months earlier than 2022. By focusing on delivering safety and service to our customers and to New York, we're winning back millions of riders. We ended October by celebrating the opening of our new Manhattan Paratransit Assessment Center, the latest in a steady stream of improvements for our customers. So far, we've been able to provide convenient assessments to 75 customers a week at this new facility. These continued improvements have seen continued record-breaking ridership on paratransit, and in October we celebrated the first 40,000 customer day in the history of the service. We wanted to provide the committee with a brief update on New York City Transit's wide efforts to reduce fare evasion on our subways and buses. In September, we discussed a new deployment model for our Eagle teams to enforce fare payment on buses. This new approach has brought conspicuous, visible enforcements to bus stops and routes in all 5 boroughs. On any given day, the Eagle team personnel interact with roughly 1,500 bus trips, and our deployment spans 80 locations each week. Since we last discussed this new strategy, with you in September, we've broadened the scope of deployment for these teams to even more routes and stops. So far, we are very encouraged by what we've seen. On stops and routes where the Eagle teams are present, ridership is up roughly 20%. Importantly, students at these stops are tapping with Omni cards 24% more than they were last year. The impact of Eagle team enforcement is also seen where the teams are not actively present at stops and routes where enforcement is happening, showing that the ripple effect of our new strategy is changing behavior. In our subways, we've been building on the success of the Eagle team approach on buses and taking a fresh look at another critical tool in addressing the fare evasion, which is our gate guards. If you've been on the subway since 2022, it's likely you've seen a team of unarmed security guards positioned at exit gates. Their presence makes a big difference in limiting the use of the emergency gates, which our chairman often says is the superhighway to fare evasion. I knew that we had to be more strategic and efficient in how we deploy these guards, maximizing the effectiveness across the system. So starting in October, we began strategic redeployment of the guards with the goal of maximizing their reach and their impact on increasing fare payment. Today, we've nearly doubled the amount of stations where guards are present, and this new strategy has allowed for us to be more efficient in how we work. Take J Street Metro Tech, for example. By efficiently deploying guards at this busy station, we're able to reduce costs by 60% while still increasing the amount of fares paid. We've also worked on providing guards with improved tools and standards. Our new standards of excellence provides guidance on how guards can keep customers safe while performing their duties in a professional manner. In the coming months, we'll continue to refine and perfect this new strategy to deploy guards and stations in times of maximum effectiveness. I have to give kudos to the Strategic Initiatives team, who's been great at giving us the tools, technology, and the information to be able to refine this process so that it better works for our customers. While it is early in our new approach, there are signs that these efforts are moving the needle. On buses, fare evasion has begun to decline from a peak of nearly 50% to 48% in Q3. October also shows an even more positive trend. Notably, roughly half of the decline is driven by increase in student Omni usage, and half can be attributed to an increase in fare payment systems, ridership through our comprehensive strategy to increase fare compliance. The graph tells a story. While too early to note a specific new trend, the facts are clear. For nearly 4 years, bus fare evasion rose every single quarter, with the increase accelerating from 2022 on. This is the first significant decline in bus fare evasion since the pandemic. On subways, we have seen similar encouraging signs. Fare evasion in recent months has been in line with post-pandemic lows, and we expect further progress. These are encouraging data points, but there's still an incredible amount of work ahead of us to reduce fare evasion and ensure that every rider is paying their fair share to keep our city moving. Moving to our performance metrics for October, we saw encouraging performance increases at the Department of Subways across KPIs. October's customer journey time performance of 84.8% was the second best in 2024, meaning that more customers completed their trip smoothly and on schedule. October also saw a strong improvement in the percentage of service delivered to 95.2%, which is the highest it's been since April of 2023. You heard us talk about efforts to improve the availability and to deliver great service and to manage our budget, and this focus is paying off. Subways has also just completed this morning the first of 2 planned work periods to replace switches at 59th Street Columbus Circle on the A, B, C, and D lines. These new switches will provide better and more reliable service to nearly 500,000 daily riders who pass through the station. On our buses, we saw similar progress in availability and the percentage of service delivered. October's service delivered percentage of 95.8% was up from September and from October of last year. Bus ridership was up in October for the second consecutive month at a weekday average of 1.46 million paid customers. Crucially, September and October are the first months with year-over-year ridership growth since 2022. More signs that by making it easier for students to tap and go, by enforcing fare payment, we are beginning to see promising results. Paratransit continues to smash ridership records with a 19% increase in total ridership and a 22% increase in total trips compared to last October. Despite record trip volume, on-time performance increased in October with continued strong performance from broker service, which provides the majority of paratransit trips. Our focus on a seamless booking process continues to yield results as well, with October's results of 98% of calls answered and on an average speed of 22 seconds, both exceeding paratransit's goals. Across modes, we are pushing forward on improved safety, better service, and October's strong metrics, especially in ridership, demonstrate that our efforts are paying off.
Thank you, Demetrius. And I just got to say a huge kudos. You know, you just went through very quickly, and it's maybe overlooked because there's a lot of high-profile stuff going on today. But the metrics that you just described show improvement in every category. And I particularly want to highlight the fact that under your leadership, we have begun seriously pushing back against bus fare evasion. And it's starting to show some results. Too early to declare, way too early to overdo the celebrations. But this is the first quarter where we've seen a decline in bus fare evasion. And it's because you organized an effort together with the NYPD, the MTA PD, and the Eagle teams to begin pushing back with enforcement, in addition to the Omni, the Omni student initiative. So huge thing. And the other thing that not to be overlooked, because we do hear from our friends in the disability advocacy community a lot, is paratransit is highest daily usership on a single day ever, highest monthly usership ever, and we also had the highest elevator availability in the subway system in terms of the number of elevators that are in an operating condition that are not out of service. So 3 huge metrics for the paratransit user community and also for our disability advocates in general. We'll continue. We have a lot more to do, but those are big numbers, so thank you. Anybody else want to comment? Midori Valdivia.
Hi, Demetrius. Thank you for your presentation. So on fare evasion, you talked about gate guards, you talked about the coordination with Eagle teams. Obviously, that's significant deployment of resources, right? So it'd be great in the next presentation to kind of get a better sense of our return on investment. If we're talking about certain percentage declines of fare evasion, it's hard for me to evaluate kind of how effective given the amount of resources that are being invested. And so would just love to hear a little bit more about the numbers and sense of this initiative. And then second, I believe a couple of months ago, there was an RFP issued specifically about kind of a behavioral lens, a behavioral economics lens on fare evasion, and would be great to get an update on that as well. Happy to do it at the next board meeting. But I think in addition to these high investment resources, it's also really good to kind of change what norms look like in the subway. And I think that potential study has the power to do that. And I remember the RFP being for like a budgeted $1 million. That's far less than the amount of money we're using for other initiatives. So it would be great to get an update. Thank you.
So just respond to a couple things. So we'll definitely look at the return on investment. I think the one thing that's clear is we have data at the stops where the enforcement is happening and the routes where the enforcement is happening. But what's the interesting dynamic is it's affecting routes where they aren't at all. So it's a little harder to get an idea of return on investment because if I take a route in the morning and I encountered the fare evasion initiative, and then on my PM trip coming back, I don't have it in a return trip, it's still affecting my behavior, right? So it's not an apples to apples comparison, but we're definitely trying to get down to it. I think the other key element is, especially on the gate guards, we've put gate guards at locations where they never existed before. Targeting locations that have been considered a little more sketchy. And so there's an element to added safety that you just can't put a price tag on, right? When you put gate guards at locations where a person is there in a vest at a location where we hadn't had as many employees or as many employees that were there to be able to offer assistance, you can't really put a price on that. And then the last piece is about the RFP. It is moving. We were looking for a funding stream, and we'll have more information for you in the future.
I also want to highlight, because there's a back and forth about this, that the MTA is now taking on responsibility alongside the City of New York for marketing and signing people up for fair fares. To date, we've not been able to, the city had to do all of that bureaucratic sign-up mechanics. Under Shanifa Riera's leadership, we now are doing sign-ups for fair fares, the City of New York's half-price fare initiative for MTA, for mass transit, with our own MTA professionals at the, 16 customer service centers around the city. So that's going to enable us to sign up more people, and that is one of the centerpieces of our mission to make sure that fare evasion is never a crime of poverty, and we're going to keep pushing on that front. And always acknowledgement to David Jones on that. Andrew Albert.
Thanks, Demetrius, for your great report. When you're looking into the items that Midori asked you to look into, could you also look into, when you have a location with gate guards, if adjacent entrances of the same station see, a ramping up of fare evasion, or the next closest station see a ramping up? Some folks, I've watched them, when they see guards, they turn around and they go to the next available entrance and do their deed. So it would be great if we could see if there is that kind of cause and effect. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I would like to congratulate the MTA staff, particularly Demetrius, of using unarmed people to do this enforcement. I think it's critically necessary. It's a deterrent, but it doesn't raise the risks that I'm always concerned about of what could have been a rather benign interaction turning into something more violent that hurts either a police officer or a potential person evading the fare. So I congratulate you for using this initiative for buses and subways.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other board member comments or questions, we're going to move on to the Railroad Committee portion of the Committee of the Whole meeting. Rob, would you start us off with the joint railroad agenda for Long Island?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Good morning. We also continue to see explosive ridership growth at the Long Island Railroad. Now, the following statistics I'm going to provide are all post-pandemic ridership records. And I say that because there's many, and it really is the core components of ridership. I'll start with October total ridership, which was 7.2 million customers and represents 88.2% of October 2019 ridership. This is an increase of about 16.8% versus October of last year, and year-to-date about 16.7%, as I said, year-to-date versus October of last year. Average weekday ridership, now this is Monday through Friday, not Tuesday through Thursday, is 261,914 customers. Monthly ridership at Grand Central Madison was a record at 1.72 million riders based on loadway. Total commutation ridership was 2.79 million customers, and monthly ticket ridership, meaning monthly pass holders, was 2.72 million. And this one is actually even more amazing than the other ones. October non-commutation ridership was not only a post-COVID record, it's also the highest non-commutation ridership in a month in our recorded history at 4.3 million customers. Now that's 6 months in a row that non-commutation ridership has met or exceeded 4 million riders. Truly remarkable. Year-to-date non-commutation ridership was 38.9 million customers and represents a 21.8% increase year-to-date over last year. So as I said, pretty remarkable ridership in terms of total ridership at the Long Island Railroad. Very proud of that. And on-time performance is doing pretty remarkable as well. October month-to-date ridership for October was 95.95%, and we just missed hitting 96% literally on the last day and the last hours of the day. Month to date, we're at 95.6% on-time performance. For all the other operating metrics, they're in the book if you need to reference them. And for scheduled service on Thanksgiving Day, we'll be running a holiday schedule and operating some extra trains. In the morning, going into the city, we'll operate 6 extra trains. In the early afternoon, we'll operate 9 extra eastbound trains, and we'll also have Protect trains just in case is needed. As we continue our efforts to run an efficient railroad, we are making significant amount of progress in the area of reducing fare evasion. Commitment to pay invoice issuance is down 59% versus the baseline. And for Penn Station pre-boarding validation pilot, we have instituted it 65 times, validating 360,000 customers, which is having a positive impact on our farebox operating revenue. We're also improving the customer experience at the Long Island Railroad. We rolled out our Station Spruce Up program earlier this year and set an ambitious goal of completing 11 stations within our system, some big and some not so big. Our in-house forces completed 10 of the 11 stations so far, and we're literally just waiting for a door to complete the last station. Depending on the needs of the station, these spruce ups include things such as performing repairs and improvements, new paint, brighter energy efficient lighting, bathroom facelifts, floor and wall tile replacements, signage, platform improvements, and so on. The stations are looking great, and I want to thank our crews who are doing an incredible job as always. Tropical Storm Sandy brought a lot of devastation to our region. Our system, especially on the west end, took on a devastating amount of water during the storm surge, and since that time, a number of climate resiliency projects have and will continue to take place as we progress with our climate resiliency roadmap. One such project is the Long Island City flood wall. Since the station and yard are so close to the East River and Newtown Creek, it was imperative to protect it from another destructive and costly weather event. We're just about at substantial completion with this project, which included a perimeter flood wall, which is about 3/4 of a mile long. Absolutely incredible, with 9 floodgates, 3 pumping stations, backup generators, and reallocated utilities. To ensure its resiliency, a test was conducted this month with the structure performing all the protections it was designed to provide. Thank you to our partners in construction and development and our amazing employees for seeing this critical project through. The railroad is constantly exploring new ways to operate an eco-friendly operation. And on November 4th, the Long Island Railroad launched a pilot to test the use of renewable diesel fuel in one of our yard locomotives. This fuel presents an opportunity to reduce greenhouse emissions by up to 78% compared to traditional diesel, and a lot of promise in terms of cold weather performance, as it doesn't have the freezing and storage challenges of biodiesel fuels. This test will help us determine the benefits and scalability of renewable diesel. As part of this test, we'll also be performing cost assessment, analyzing impacts to performance and maintenance. This pilot, in addition to our other investments in clean technology, just further illustrates our commitment to a cleaner and more environmentally friendly service. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the passing of Van Ritchie. You may not recognize the name, but you certainly will recognize the voice. Van Ritchie's voice is the comforting one you hear on Long Island Railroad M7 and Metro North's M7 and M8 trains. May he rest in peace, and I know his voice will live on. And finally, I'd like to end this month with a note of congratulations to Kara Mercado, Executive Assistant to the Long Island Railroad President, that's me, who retires after an incredible 35-year run at the railroad. Kara was a well-loved and invaluable member of our team who was instrumental in managing the committee agenda and content for the meetings, and the board books as well, every month, which is no small task. So if you don't know her personally, you certainly know her excellent work. Best wishes for a long and healthy retirement, Kara. To say you'll be missed is an understatement, and I want to thank you for all your amazing work and support. Enjoy all the newfound time with your family and not having to remind me of what branch I commuted out of. That concludes my report, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments? So much success doesn't inspire questions or comments, but congratulations, Rob, an amazing month, and just trajectory has been fantastic under your leadership, really has been. Kathy?
Good morning, everybody. October was a strong month for Metro North ridership, with a total of 6.5 million riders, which is an increase of 13% from September and a 16.2% increase from October of last year. Our average weekday ridership of 230,449 was a post-pandemic record at 79.2% of pre-COVID levels in October of 2019. But even better, our average weekend ridership of 131,666 is 2.2% higher than pre-COVID levels in October of 2019. The Yankees World Series run was obviously shorter than any of us would have liked, but Metro North is clearly a fan favorite, setting several days of record ridership to and from the stadium. We've been operating Leaf Peeper trains on the Hudson Line to accommodate everyone who wants to explore the villages of the Hudson Valley. We had planned to end the extra Leaf Peeper trains on November 10th, which is usually when ridership begins to taper off, but large numbers rode with us that weekend, so we operated additional Leaf Peeper trains this past weekend too. And we will be adding service this coming Saturday for the Shamrock Series game at Yankee Stadium between Notre Dame and Army. Metro North service delivered rate, service reliability measure for October of 2024 was 99.9%. System-wide on-time performance for October was 98.5%, above our goal of 94%. Year-to-date OTP was also above goal at 98.4%, which is the best October on-time performance ever, and also the highest year-to-date on-time performance in Metro North's history. The mean distance between failures for the fleet was 297,411 miles in September, above the goal of 200,000 miles. Our year-to-date MBDF performance also remains above goal at 315,364 miles. With even more people riding, we're also seeing improvements in the fares that we're collecting. Initiatives that we've put into place to address fare evasion in response to the Blue Ribbon Panel's report have yielded very positive results. Our fare not collected rates continue to improve, going down from 5.7% in 2022 to 2.8% last year, and further reduced this year to 2.4% through the end of October. Much of the credit for these improvements goes to our strong partnership with our labor leaders and to our train crews, who are doing an absolutely outstanding job of collecting fares day in and day out. Increased management oversight in the field, along with improved MTA PD response times and expanded train patrols, have been key drivers in these improvements. October has traditionally been one of the highest ridership months in the year, and with holidays and vacations beginning to affect ridership in November, we do expect a slight decrease this month. On to the holiday schedule. Thanksgiving begins the holiday season. Metro North will have extra service on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and special schedules on Thanksgiving Day and Friday, November 29th. On Wednesday, we'll operate 19 extra trains earlier in the afternoon, and we'll cancel and combine some trades in the evening. On Thanksgiving Day, we'll operate extra service to Manhattan for customers going to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and we'll take them home afterward with expanded service during the afternoon. And we'll bring folks home after sharing the holidays with friends and family across the region with extra inbound trains into Manhattan in the evening. The Friday after Thanksgiving brings a special schedule to accommodate shoppers and visitors who come into Manhattan for the day. We will operate an expanded Saturday schedule with extra trains in the traditional AM and PM peak periods. Saturday and Sunday, we'll add cars to regularly scheduled trains, and we'll also operate shopper specials on the New Haven line. On Friday, November 1st, at our Harmon shop, Metro North unveiled the first two of our new Siemens SC42 Charger locomotives, which arrived ahead of schedule and within budget. The Chargers are part of a 27 locomotive order that the board approved in 2021, along with 6 purchased by the Connecticut Department of Transportation, replacing our aging fleet of 27 Genesis locomotives which have served our customers for more than 25 years. The new locomotives will enhance reliability and environmental responsibility, transitioning between electric and diesel power across our 102-mile third rail territory, which is a significant improvement over the existing fleet's limited electric range. Compliant with Tier 4 environmental specifications, these locomotives significantly reduce pollutants, cutting airborne emissions by more than 85%. The remaining 31 units will arrive over the next 3 years. I'd like to thank the MTA and Metro North employees and our partners at Siemens Mobility who made this milestone possible. On Monday, November 11th, in Grand Central's main concourse, we honored our veterans' dedication, including Metro North employees who have served in the armed forces, during our annual Veterans Day wreath-hanging ceremony. Attended by veterans, employees, commuters, and visitors, and Randy Glucksman, this ceremony was a heartfelt expression of our gratitude for the nearly 400 veterans in our workforce. A performance by the MTA Police Department's Pipe and Drums Band and by MTA Police Officer James Volpe, made the event memorable. I want to thank all our veterans for their service. I want to thank the American Legion Commodore Vanderbilt Post 158 for organizing this event every year, the MTA Pipe and Drums, and Officer Volpe for their contributions to a very special ceremony. And then right after that ceremony, I attended the opening of the Grand Central Holiday Fair in Vanderbilt Hall alongside Rob, Costa Rica Ambassador to the UN Maritza Chan, and representatives from the Costa Rica Tourism Board, which is this year's sponsor. The event featured traditional Costa Rican dancers and showcased the 36 local artisans and small businesses who will be creating a memorable holiday shopping experience in Grand Central this year. In addition to the holiday fair, Grand Central hosts events such as the New York Transit Museum's famous holiday train show and a Thanksgiving market in the Biltmore Room, which creates a festive atmosphere for our passengers, city residents, and the large number of tourists and visitors to the city, supporting small businesses and celebrating New York's holiday spirit. And while we're on the topic of holiday spirit, as a special treat for this holiday season, we're going to begin operation of a specially decorated train on the Friday after Thanksgiving. The train will be decorated with holiday lights on the exterior to bring a little extra joy and magic for our customers, and will feature special holiday-themed announcements on the interior. This specially decorated holiday train will operate on regularly scheduled trains on the electrified segments of all 3 East of Hudson lines until the new year. A couple words on winter prep. Our winter preparedness plan is designed to ensure operational functionality and the safety of customers and employees. This comprehensive plan is a year-round effort, beginning with summer maintenance on our 375 pieces of snow clearing equipment and focusing on infrastructure readiness during the fall. The maintenance of way department focuses on snow melters and switch heaters, while the maintenance of equipment department pays special attentions to power collectors, doors, couplers, and HVAC systems. This coordinated approach, supported by our external partners and MTA headquarters, enables Metro North to respond effectively to winter's challenges, ensuring safe and reliable service for our customers throughout the season. I, too, am losing somebody from the executive office this month. With a bit of sadness and great appreciation, I want to share and celebrate the retirement of Tony Greco, Chief of Executive Office Operations, after 32 years of dedicated service at Metro North. Tony began as a coach cleaner in 1992 and rose through such roles such as customer service representative, ticket seller, and assignment clerk. Tony's journey reflects his remarkable can-do attitude and commitment to learning and growing in his jobs. He supported 3 presidents, not just me, but also executive assistant under Howard Permit, and later as manager of administration under Joe Giletti. Beyond Tony's core responsibilities, he organized key events like the President's and Team Excellence Awards, our holiday train, our 40th anniversary celebration. He executes all of these with skill and heart. His dedication, his resourcefulness, his love for his work have left an enduring legacy here at Metro North. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Tony and wish him joy and fulfillment in his next chapter. As I conclude, I want to say that, every month Justin and I report on our metrics and our performance at Metro North. We're very proud of those metrics, but we wouldn't be able to achieve them without the tremendous work of Metro North employees. I'm very grateful for their service, and I'm grateful for the loyalty of our customers who are coming back in record numbers. So to our employees and our customers, I wish them all a very happy Thanksgiving.
Congratulations, Kathy. And congratulations to the whole Metro North team. 98.4% on-time performance all of this year. Never done at that level before, so incredible accomplishment. Any other comments or questions for our 2 railroad presidents who are setting all kinds of records? All right, well, we're going to move on to the record-setting C&D president, Mr. Torres Springer.
Thanks to a lot of leadership, we're about to set some records indeed, Chair. We'll talk about that more in the next meeting. But I'm happy to be here today and give an update on our progress at C&D over the last month, and assume there's some slides coming up at some point. But the work has continued throughout our system to keep it in a state of good repair and make improvements that are critical and highly valued by our riders. We've already completed $2.8 billion worth of work this year, and we expect to substantially exceed that target by the end of the year with a lot of completions, particularly ADA accessibility completions coming up over the next 6.5 weeks. A lot of folks working very hard at C&D to get that done. Let me give you a few highlights of what we got done in the last month. We completed major progress toward making the 3-station 14th Street 1, 2, 3 FM and L complex fully ADA accessible. Completed the mezzanine to platform elevator on the uptown side of the 1, 2, 3. This follows the opening during the summer of elevators at the L train, and then also at the 6th Avenue, the F and M earlier this year, and then the downtown F and M and 1, 2, 3 will follow shortly. We're shooting for the end of the year for that. You can also see one of the 6 extraordinary mosaics added to this station by MTA Arts and Design. Fred Tomaselli created these Wild Things glass mosaics of species that live year-round in New York City, including a woodpecker, a cardinal, and orioles mobbing a falcon. So far this year, we've completed 5 ADA stations in the subway system, with a number more to open by the end of the year. And of course, as you know, we have more than 30 in construction. We also made Massapequa Park Station on the Babylon branch ADA accessible this fall, making it the 4th Long Island Railroad station that we've made accessible this year. More news on railroad accessibility, including a look ahead to the other stations from the on-time and on-budget ADA Package 1 for Long Island Railroad at CPC next month. Last week, we held a town hall in the Rockaways to inform riders of the critical resiliency and rehabilitation work that we'll be doing this winter on the A and the S lines to the peninsula to continue to provide service to the peninsula for the next 50 years and more. We need to fully reconstruct the 65-year-old Hamels Y, which connects the train from Jamaica Bay to the viaduct that runs across the peninsula. And we have to rehabilitate the systems on the South Channel Bridge, which is a swing bridge and often gets stuck open, which is a huge disruption to service. There's simply no way to do that without a closure. The C&D and New York City Transit teams that recently ensured a smooth G-train outage this summer while we installed new signal systems are hard at work in the Rockaways to provide as many alternatives as we can for our customers during this period. Free shuttle buses, steep discounts on the Long Island Railroad for our Rockaway branch, a free shuttle train extended to serve all stations on the peninsula between Far Rockaway and Rockaway Park. And we have a great team led by Deirdre Harvey from C&D, who's pulled off some of the most challenging projects at MTA C&D over the last few years, who are leading this project. Our contractor is deeply committed. I've spent a lot of time out there. My colleagues in New York City Transit have been out there a lot. We have a commitment to get this done in 16 weeks, starting with the closure in January, and get service back as quickly as we can. Looking ahead to the 25 to 29 capital plan that the board approved last month, the MTA is moving fast on it. We're holding a series of town halls across the region to provide information to the public and get feedback on all aspects of the plan. Here we were joined by Senator Comrie for an open house at the Queens Public Library main branch in Jamaica last week. We also held a similar open house at Grand Central Station. We'll be having additional open houses throughout the region, including one coming up this week at Brooklyn Borough Hall. And also, we're preparing for work in the next capital plan. We're excited to be starting full design of the Interborough Express as we released an RFP for a preliminary engineering team to take the project forward. With strong support for the funding of the next capital plan, we'll be able to complete design and make considerable progress on this first light rail line, which will serve well more than 100,000 daily riders and connect neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Queens. I'll also note to the board that the work of C&D to improve and leverage assets across the region continues. Last month, as part of the Governor's Executive Order 30 initiative to build transit-oriented development with an emphasis on housing across the region, we released an opportunity to redevelop a site at Beacon Station on the Hudson Line with a mix of uses. This is exciting. It's also this unique and a first mover in another big way. because it's using the governor's redevelopment of underutilized sites for housing, or RUSH initiative, that was passed in the budget last year. In this case, up to $24 million will be made available to enable the developer to replace commuter parking as part of the development project. So riders continue to have good station access even while we achieve transit-oriented development. Without this funding, it's economically challenging to reposition these precious assets adjacent to railroad stations, but the RUSH funding will unlock TOD opportunities across the region. And we're very proud of our transit-oriented development group and Bob Paley in particular, but we're going to come back to some news about Bob in a few minutes that the chair will share with us. Also, an update on our vacant retail activation program in the subway system. It aims to fill vacant units that have become challenging to fill with traditional retail because of size or location limitations, with creative non-traditional uses like art installations and cultural programming. It has now activated 12 units in 9 stations, and we're working with over a dozen partners. You see here art installations by the Whitney at West 4th Street and by the nonprofit partner of ours on this program, Chashama at 50th Street Station. The program website on the MTA real estate page lists available units that are available within this program. That's our brief update for this month. Look forward to updating the board further on congestion pricing funded aspects of the capital program in a few minutes.
Thanks, Jamie. Is there not a procurement that we need to act on?
There is a procurement,
After
Chair.
the
I
safe-
think that's coming up in the business, the procurement business shortly, after the safety committee.
So, it's just a prompt to Mr. Iceland to take his seat. Okay.
He's always ready.
Questions for Torres Springer, the man, the legend, shall we? Anybody? Anybody? All right. Moving right on. The Safety Committee, our Chief Safety Officer, Carl Heyman. Carl's right there, and he has an update on for the committee and a brief presentation on MTA drug and alcohol programs. Carl.
Great. Thank you, Chair, and good morning to all. I'm pleased to report that the safety and security metrics continue on a positive trend. Customer accident and injury rates, as well as employee lost time accidents, have decreased over the last 12 months. These trends are in part a result of the great work being done by the safety and operating departments across all of the agencies. Additionally, of note, subway fires continue to trend downwards and have decreased significantly by over 25% on a rolling 12-month basis. Major crimes continues to be down, and the most recent 28 days sees a reduction of nearly 15% within the subway system. This is thanks to strong collaborations with federal, state, and local law enforcement. Please note that the updates to NTSB's previously issued recommendations and the railroad's grade crossing grants updates can be found in the committee book. Now, unless there are any questions, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Daria Luisi, Deputy Chief Officer of MTA's Occupational Health Services, for a presentation on our drug and alcohol program.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So I'm here to present on the drug-free workplace program that's in place across the MTA at all of our agencies. It is something that's a necessity as part of our doing business in the transportation world. So basically, an alcohol and drug-free program across the MTA provides, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a slide, excuse me. An alcohol and drug-free workplace is necessary because of keeping our employees and customers safe by enhancing the employee fitness, sustaining a sound and secure work environment, preventing workplace accidents and unsafe work situations. In addition, the MTA is mandated by the Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1998 and the U.S. Department of Transportation federal regulations, which require us to have comprehensive drug testing program. The extensive alcohol and drug programs are in place at 7 of our MTA locations or clinical facilities. The testing occurs at many different times throughout the employee's career. We test up to 9 major substances, and they're tested for depending on the testing need and the scenario of the type of test that we're giving. The department gives over 100,000 individual tests, which we administer across the MTA every year. Depending on the type of test in the agency, we can capture anywhere from 10 to 50% of the workforce population, and it's tested annually. This graph basically shows the employees have a lower positivity rate than our pre-employment or job applicants. You could see from the lower part of the graph that we are well below 1% for our fitness for duty exams and for our random drug testing exams. Where we see increases in positivity rates are with the pre-employment or what we call the job applicants. And you can see that that trend in the graph sort of corresponds to legalization of marijuana in New York State, and we're actually seeing that uptick in our job applicants applying for positions. The MTA positivity rates are lower than the national averages. The national average across the United States is at 2%. We're well below that at 0.43%. In fact, our average basically keeps the rest of the nation's average down. We have a new opportunity that we're looking at, and the opportunity would be to increase the type of testing or method that we have available. Currently, we use a urine lab testing program. We will be looking at introducing oral fluid testing as part of a sampling option as part of our program. With the oral fluid testing, it gives us an increased detection window of more recent drug use. It will significantly reduce the need for same-gender observations. It will significantly reduce the shy bladder incidence. It will significantly reduce the invasiveness of the specimen collections. At the same time, we believe it will strengthen the employee availability. The two types of oral fluid testing are lab-based is one, and the second one is the instant testing. So lab-based is pretty similar to the urine testing program. It's lab-based, it follows similar type of collection. It's done by our certified lab collectors across all of our laboratories. The analysis is done at an off-site Quest laboratory. We have our MROs, which are medical review officers that review all of the drug test results, and they have verification on the process for employees. Additionally, we think that the lab-based oral fluid testing, which is immediately available now for what we call our non-DOT employee program, it will be available for the DOT testing program, hopefully in the near future, waiting for federal approval. We also believe that this will supplement the lab-based urine testing program for us. The rapid oral fluid is actually available now for non-DOT employees. It's FDA approved. The devices are available. The MTA is proposing rapid oral fluid testing for triggering workplace events. These triggering workplace events are post-accidents, reasonable suspicion, reasonable cause types of testing. It will return the employees back to work sooner. The testing methodology provided for detecting the recent drug use is greater than the sampling methods that we're using currently. DOT-mandated drug testing requirements do not authorize the use of rapid drug testing under any circumstances. The MTA is committed to communicating with all of our internal stakeholders. We have MTA written policies that basically outline prohibiting drug and alcohol use at the work site. We have supervisory and employee testing requirements, and we have information on the consequences for violation of the policy. We also provide employee education concerning the policy, so they're well aware of it. We also provide training for supervisors for identifying signs and symptoms of potential impairment. And the MTA also provides rehabilitation through our EAP programs, our employee assistance programs. We have more data-specific information on the agencies in the board book that if anyone is interested in looking at that. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Couple of comments from the field. Mr. Mack, Mr. Bringerman, Ms. Soren.
Yeah. What have you done regarding poppy seeds? That when someone has a breakfast and had poppy seeds.
Yeah, so if someone is presenting into the laboratory and their test comes back as non-negative, we don't automatically declare it a positive. Our MRO, which is the medical review officer, will review the test results and they will define what caused the non-negative result. The laboratories can automatically inform us whether it's poppy seeds or something else. So that's the way that it's sort of handled within the laboratory.
So bagel on, Mr. Mack.
A bagel's not going to do it, nor will a corn muffin or a poppy seed. Won't do it.
Not me, but in government,
I've seen you with the
problem.
poppy bagel, sir. Going crazy. All right, Mr. Bringerman, then Ms. Soren.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Where does legalized marijuana fall into your drug testing program?
The state has legalized it. The federal government has not. Our MROs, which are medical review offices, are all certified by the federal government. We're zero tolerance for marijuana at this point. And when we see this with our pre-employment applicants, our MROs are given, they give information to the pre-employment applicant to seek help before trying to apply again with us within 2 years. So we're zero tolerant for it.
Question answered. I just want everyone to understand, Dr. Luisi runs the MTA's Occupational Health Services, and it was thanks to her and the folks in that group that we were successful in powering through COVID to a great extent. It was they working with Pat Warren who developed the program where we did massive testing using spit testing, using oral tests rather than other ones, and treated so many of our workers, and it's an amazing group, and you know, we don't always hear from her, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Luisi and her team at MTA Occupational Health. Thank you. Mr. Bringerman and Ms. Testor.
Yeah, just a follow-up question. Do we still do sleep apnea testing? And if so, do you do it at the same time as the drug testing, or is that something separate, or?
So obstructive sleep apnea testing and screening is done on all of our employees that come into the clinic if they meet certain criteria to be in the high-risk category. We have an outside vendor that provides a sleep specialist once our internal OHS physicians make a referral. So yes, we have a very robust sleep apnea program.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Mr. Tessitore.
Yep. Thank you, Doctor. I saw there were some differences between the DOT testing and the FRA testing. Where is the FRA at with that oral testing, the newer?
So DOT covers those modes of FRA, FTA, right? And so the lab-based oral testing, the methodology has been approved by the feds. They just have not certified the laboratories yet, and they have not certified a device that will be used for this program. The non-DOT population, which is not covered under FRA, FTA, but often covered under the MTA policy, is basically available for us to do both lab-based oral testing and to do the rapid testing on them.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again, Dr. Luisi, and thank you, Carl, our Chief Safety Officer, for all the work in this important area. We've got to keep the customers and our workforce safe. Before we move to the finance report, I think we have a couple of procurements for Long Island Railroad and C&D. Rob, would you start us off with the railroad procurements?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. The Long Island Railroad seeks approval of a contract to LaDuca Associates Incorporated for the partial demolition of the Long Island Railroad-owned section of the Alpha Point building located in Richmond Hill, New York, which the Long Island Railroad no longer has use for. LaDuca will supply all elements of the project, including labor, parts, material, equipment, and supervision to perform the work. For this competitively solicited public works contract, 2 proposals were received, one from LaDuca and the second from Gramercy Group, Incorporated. Both firms were found to be technically qualified. Loduca submitted a BAFO of $1,298,000, while Gramercy submitted a best and final offer of $2,856,000. It was determined by the selection committee that Loduca's proposal clearly met the technical requirements and provided the best value for the MTA. I submit this item for your consideration and vote.
Okay, may I have a motion? Thank you, Mr. Herbst. Second, Mr. Jones. Any discussion, questions? All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Any opposition or abstentions? Okay, the item carries. Is there Mr. Iceland?
Thank you.
C&D.
Construction and Development is presenting one procurement action totaling $2.3 million. This month, the item is a modification to a contract with Boyce Technologies to add a new emergency elevator two-way communication system into New York City Transit's existing emergency booth communication system. The item is described in detail in the staff summary contained in your committee books, and I submit it for your consideration and vote.
Okay, may I have a motion for this? Thank you, Mr. Herbst. Second, Ms. Lopez. Any discussion or commentary? In that case, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The item carries. Thank you, Mr. Iceland. Okay, Finance Committee. We're in Mr. Zuckerman's hands. Okay, before we start the Finance Committee agenda, I just want to remind the board and the public the November financial plan and the related proposed budget will be presented this afternoon as part of the regular board meeting section of this MTA date. But I'm going to turn it over now to Kevin Willens.
Thank you. Finance Committee materials and consolidated reports are available in the November book and online. Good news, net operating results through October are favorable to our July plan forecast, which will provide us a good foundation for the November plan and the 2025 budget that Jay Patel will present later at the board meeting. If there are no questions on the items in the book, we'll move to the procurement actions.
Okay, hearing none. Let's hear from Lizette Camillo about the procurement items for finance.
There's one MTA headquarters item this month for Finance Committee approval, and the action is found in the November 2024 Finance Committee book. Before the committee today is the ratification of a non-competitive contract awarded to Runwise, Inc. in the amount of $908,500 to add 38 additional New York City Transit locations to enable the MTA to remotely monitor boilers and automatically adjust boiler temperature settings based on indoor temperatures, outdoor conditions, and weather forecasts. To date, 11 locations have been implemented under this contract, and this boiler management software is proprietary to Runwise. In October 2023, the MTA signed a 3-year pilot program agreement for $350,000 to implement the Runwise system at 7 MTA locations. The pilot program resulted in a reduction in fuel consumption across those locations. For the added 38 locations in this item, savings over the heating season is conservatively estimated at 25%, or a net savings of $903,000 in year 1 and approximately $1.1 million in year 2 and beyond.
Okay, save money and energy sounds good to me, but are there any other comments or questions on this item? Okay, I'll take a motion. Thank you, Ms. Soren. Second, Mr. Chu. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition or abstention? All right, the item carries. Turning it over, I think, now to David Florio, who's down on that end, for the real estate report. David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real estate has 4 transactional action items for consideration and approval. All 4 items are for the Long Island Railroad and include a license agreement with the town of Oyster Bay for use of 2 parking lots in connection with the Hicksville Downtown Revitalization Initiative at Hicksville. This agreement was a result of an MOU the railroad had negotiated with the locality. The grant of a permanent easement to Brookhaven Logistics Center for a utility connection in Yaphank, a license of land with Ellen and Matt Kerwin for residential use in Southampton, and finally a license of land with Hawkins Avenue Development for recreational use in Ronkonkoma. There are, in addition, Mr. Chairman, 2 information items. The first is for MTA Bridges and Tunnels, and is the 5th modification to the option agreement between B&T and the City of New York. to facilitate improvements to the RFK Bridge and its approaches on Randall's Island. The second is with MTA and is an acquisition of temporary and permanent easements from the City of New York in support of the Second Avenue Subway Phase 2. Bob Paley, head of MTA's transit-oriented development, is here to answer any questions regarding the second information action item, and I'm happy to answer any questions regarding any of the foregoing.
Okay. Lots of mechanics in real estate world this month. Any questions or comments? Exciting stuff. So with that, is there a motion for all those real estate items to be approved? Thank you, Mr. Herbst, always helpful. Second, thank you, Dr. Rizzo. All in favor of the real estate items as proposed? Any opposition or abstention? The real estate items carry. Thank you, David. They're hearing no further action items for the finance portion. We're going to conclude with some more administrative stuff. But before we do, I need to acknowledge, where's Bob Paley? There he is. Okay. So folks who have been around at the MTA for a little while, but in the broader world of planning and thinking about the future of the city, there is arguably very few people who have played a more important role than Bob Paley, who has been the leading light from the MTA, 2 terms. He left to work for a little while in private real estate, but then came back because his heart is in planning. And he has been the leading light of the development of the thinking about transit-oriented development in the region and maybe nationally. Just ask the people at ULI, Urban Land Institute, what a great impact Bob has had in helping the world to understand the importance of transit-oriented development, the opportunity to have organize your city around mass transit and to take advantage of mass transit to rationally grow the housing and development of the city. So, Bob has just been, he's responsible for so much of the skyline around our stations, both in the city and in the outer lying counties. Projects like Hudson Yards, from the earliest days of the conceptual planning to the construction of a new transit-oriented neighborhood, this was Paley in the lead. The Coliseum, folks like me who grew up in New York where there was this behemoth sitting on Columbus Circle that was the outdated convention center, especially after Javits got built. Bob thought through how to turn that into what was a pretty dead part of New York into something lively, and we now have that Columbus Circle retail development with the office buildings above and all of the activity around Columbus Circle. The Atlantic Terminal project, which is still struggling to get all of the housing plan, but the original plan was because Bob and some people who are working with him saw opportunity to dramatically improve the Long Island Railroad on the Atlantic branch and at Atlantic Terminal in combination with a rational transit-oriented development plan. The East Midtown rezoning, which has yielded us One Vanderbilt and the J.P. Morgan Chase rebuild and so much more, and continues to deliver for New York's planning and future, was in large part a brainchild of Bob, working closely with his close collaborators in the New York City Department of City Planning. And all of those transit-oriented developments, we heard about one on in Beacon today. Many, many different transit-oriented development projects that are going on in Long Island, that have gone on in Westchester, and they're continuing to grow momentum. Paley is largely responsible. So while Bob is hanging up his protractor, we just need to say a huge thank you to the leading thinker, an ideologist, and practitioner of transit-oriented development, Bob Paley. All right, well, from the elevated to the profane, do we have any changes to the work plan, agency presidents? None?
Yes,
None?
Chair.
Okay, go for it.
For the capital program, the Railroads Business Unit will update the committee next month.
Okay. Do Do I need to change to the work?
Yes,
vote on that?
I think you need to
Okay.
vote, yeah.
Vote on change to the work plan. Motion, Mr. Herbst. Second, Ms. Lopez. Thank you. All in favor of the change to the work plan? Any opposition or abstention? We have the updated work plan is approved. Copies of the October capital program. So we're almost done. Copies of the October capital program, New York City Transit, the Bridges and Tunnels, the Finance, Safety, and Joint Railroad Committee meetings have been distributed and are available on the website. And also there are minutes of the July and September Bridges and Tunnels Committee meeting pending approval. So are there any changes, Mr. Albert? None? Zero? All those minutes? Oh, boy. In that case, the minutes are approved as distributed. That concludes the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting of today's meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting? Thank you, Ms. Sorin. Second, Dr. Rizzo. We are adjourned for the moment. As the board meeting. Thank you.